What a game against Washington. LaMelo goes nuclear in the third quarter, really the entire game. Kon, Brandon, everybody's scoring. How would you describe how the Hornets navigated these waters without Miles Bridges, without Moussa Diabate? And is Jeff Peterson using AI? All of it today. Locked On Hornets.
Beep boop.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, go check him out on Yahoo Sports Daily. You can check me out at least one time. I've only been on there once, but Doug was also there. He showed up. He's not only behind the scenes, but every once in a while he pops up on screen.
They let me out. They let me out of my cage for just a moment.
And then they put him right back in the rightful place. That's where he belongs as the producer. I'm just joking. Anyways, go check it out. Jason Fitz, Caroline Fitton, they do a great job. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio, 92.7 FM. And last but not least, we need to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, we'll talk about the 4-game stretch without Miles and Moussa. 1 game without Grant Williams, by the way. We'll get to that, how they navigated those waters, what it all means, Basil. We'll get to all of it. But, man, how about we just focus on this game yesterday? Hornets win on the road against Washington, 129-112. They had a 44-point third quarter where they went 12 of 14 from 3. And we get these moments, these special stretches from LaMelo. So it's not like that was all that abnormal, because we'll get the 1-foot jumpers that go in. We'll go on a heater with LaMelo where he hits 3 in a row. But that's one of the best heat checks I've ever seen from LaMelo, as he went 37, 7, and 8. I'm a rebounds first guy, so let me change that. 37 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. I don't know why that order is the way that it is, but you get the idea. LaMelo was insane. It's not that we haven't seen that before. We see that all the time from such a special basketball player. I think what made this one so special, Doug, he didn't play the fourth quarter because the game was already decided. I kind of wanted him to play, but he can't tweak his ankle and have the season go into the tank because you wanted to get crazy against Washington, although I kind of wanted historic performance a little bit more. But LaMelo goes crazy. The thing about it was that they didn't miss any shots, that LaMelo went on the heat check, and then he was looking for a shot, and the defense just was going to take it away from him. Washington said, no, okay, you had 1 heat check, you nailed it. Now we're just forcing the basketball out of your hands. And to LaMelo's credit, while he was looking for it, for sure, if he had any daylight whatsoever, he would have let it fly. But it didn't have enough daylight. And so what happens is he throws it to Green. Green nails it. And then he throws it. I think there was another player that he threw it to. And then he nailed a 3-pointer. So he even had a couple more assists. Unbelievable third quarter. Great game from the Hornets, especially offensively. Much needed as well to go 2-2 in this stretch without 40% of your starting lineup.
Yeah, you made the most important point. I noted it in my game notes on every Hornets box score. Charles Lee mentioned it after the game. The most important part of LaMelo's fire stretch in the third quarter is that he gave himself the red light, because 99% of NBA players would have taken the green light and gone until they missed.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm going to continue once they decided, once the defense decided. And Washington just picked a few moments in the game when they decided to play defense. There was
This was one of them where they decided LaMelo is not shooting anymore.
Right. And so LaMelo could have hoisted it up. He could have run the red light, if you will. And instead he gave himself the red light. And I think that's what did I do? What?
You know what? It's fine. It's fine. Let's just move on. We don't need
to. Well, but that's growth to me. And it's not only growth, it's to me, it's coaching too. I think it's the effect of Charles Lee. It's the communication that they've had over these past couple of years. And that's playoff level LaMelo Ball. That's the kind of performance and the kind of decision making that you go, Yes, obviously he's a winning player. He has the tools now, the space now, the Kon in the corner pulling guys off so he can get driving lanes. Because remember, one of those opportunities that he could have shot it, he said, no, I'm just going to drive because I have a lane here because everyone's scared of Kon Knueppel knocking down back-to-back jacks as well. And so that's, it should make you feel even better about LaMelo Ball in the playoffs.
He was 12 of 20 from the field, really did most of his work behind the line, 10 of 15 from three-point range, hit all 3 of his free throw attempts as well. 0 turnovers, too. A stupid game from LaMelo. And him, you mentioned the heat check. Well, I love a heat check that ends on a made bucket. Because that last 3 he hit, that was absolutely a heat check shot, and he nailed it. And if he would have hit another one, I think Eric Collins' head just would have exploded. There was not any more capacity for Eric to go up a level. We maxed out Eric Collins, and it would have been interesting to see had LaMelo hit another shot. But you did have open shooters, and I thought he appropriately had one more field goal attempt in him, and then the defense closed in, and then he appropriately dished it out to a couple of other shooters, and voila, we get one of the best offensive quarters that we've seen from LaMelo and the Hornets in general on their way to 25 3-point makes. 26 is the franchise record. Actually accomplished that just last year. It was funny to hear Eric go through some of those names. Daquan Jeffries, Marcus Garrett, some of those guys were on that list. That's right. 29 is the NBA record, by the way. But it was in play. Unless if this was a close game, maybe, who knows, but it wasn't. And the Hornets have to, quote unquote, settle for a 129-112 victory over Washington.
And I don't know how much awareness he had of this, but his 10 3-pointers made tied the franchise record for 3-pointers made as well. So had he, thrown something up to get the franchise record, again, that would have been understandable. Yeah, and yet he went into elite playmaker mode, which I saw some numbers talking about, like how in this age of inefficiency, or in this age of efficiency where we're constantly looking for players to make the right shot decisions and be efficient, get to the free throw line, shoot a lot of threes, blah, 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 blah. LaMelo has not been an efficient offensive player, and yet he has been the most impactful player, not only for the Hornets, but as I said a few shows ago, other than Nikola Jokic, he's one of the most impactful offensive players in terms of how much better their team plays when he's on the court versus off the court, and he's done that because he's an elite playmaker, and that's what he showcased during that period as well. And I don't want to glance over the 0 turnovers, because as we know, the Charlotte Hornets have had a major turnover problem this season. It continues to this day, but not on this day. The Hornets controlled the turnovers as a team and did not get beaten points off of turnovers. In fact, they beat Washington in that respect, like 25-8. And LaMelo is going to drive that conversation because he has the ball in his hands the most. If he's not turning the basketball over, even if you have some rookie mistakes by Kon Knueppel or some sophomore mistakes by Sion James or something, like, it doesn't matter. If LaMelo's not turning it over 5 times, you're probably going to have a great day. And if he turns it over 0 times, you're going to have an elite day, and that's what the Hornets had, 129-112. Amazing win.
Last point on LaMelo, as far as the turnovers, to have 0 despite having the basketball in your hands constantly, it's a big deal. Let's go over a couple of other points. One, LaMelo played 48 games, Doug. He played 47 all last year. So he passed the 47-game threshold that he played last year. That's phenomenal. Less minutes, though. 1,332 minutes compared to the 1,500 minutes that he played last year in those 47 games. So 170 less. I don't want to do math, but you get the idea. Almost 200 less in one game more played this year. It's the most amount of games that he's played since 75 in 2021, 2022. So that's something to note. We've talked about the minutes restriction. Going back to the turnover stuff, he has a 12.4% turnover percentage. It's the same as what he had last year, where LaMelo would turn it over a little bit. Like, that's what happens with some of these creative savants that are great passers. You see that all the time. I don't even think it was a monster issue the first 3, maybe 4 years that he played in the league, first 4 years, just because that's kind of what happens with the Warlocks with the basketball in their hands, right? It was a little bit of an issue, not a big one. Now, it's just kind of like a non-issue. LaMelo, the biggest turnover stuff with him is the fourth quarter stuff where every once in a while he'll go for all of it. He'll throw the lob to a streaming Moussa when it would be great for you to just dribble that basketball out and waste more time in a really close last 12 minutes of action. We've seen some late game decision making question marks, I think, from him. But in terms of just overall turnover numbers, like, they're way better than what they were the first 4 seasons of his NBA career. And you saw that on display. 0 turnovers here. So just a couple of other things to note outside of the ridiculous shot making.
7 straight road wins for the Charlotte Hornets. Again, continuing to pile those up. The just recently late Doug Moe, great coach, used to count up the road wins and count up the I believe it's the road wins. There was one other metric that went into his determining whether a team was a good playoff team. But road wins, huge one. Steve Clifford was always a big proponent of that. Can you win on the road? Because that's going to determine your postseason success. So another huge road win for the Charlotte Hornets. And there was a lot of con stuff in this game that is going to get buried today because of how excellent, and deservedly so, how excellent LaMelo played. We've got time tomorrow. So I want to get into this AI stuff. There's so much to get to, but we got to talk. We got to tomorrow tune in because we got to dig into some of the fun stuff that Kon did in this game too.
Okay, tomorrow and also the next 2 segments coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I got to talk about these robots.
Don't bail yet. Yeah, Hornets, are they using AI? I saw Dylan Jackson, which, by the way, we'll give him a shout out in just a moment as well. Dylan Jackson, one of the coolest dudes out there in the Hornet sphere. But he made this point catching Jeff Peterson and the Hornets using AI to help draft Kon Knueppel. Just how much did they use it? What does it all mean? We'll get to all that in just a moment. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if your picks are right, you can cash in. You can choose from basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex play, so you have options while the game is still going on. You could download the app, and you might be surprised at how easy it is to get started. It just takes a couple of minutes to build your first lineup, and it's available in all 50 states, so it's easy for just about anyone to jump in. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Before we move on, I want to tell you about the Everydayers Club. If you join the Everydayers Club, you get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Hornets compatible with any major podcast app. You get an invite to the members-only Locked On Hornets group chat. You get exclusive access to national bonus shows, and all it costs is $5 a month. Or you can save up to 17% if you join for the year. Just go to lockedonhornets.supercast.com and join the Everydayers Club there. lockedonhornets.supercast.com. Tell us a little bit more about this AI story, Doug, because it's interesting. Jeff Peterson getting the help from the robots to draft Kon Knueppel. Does it worry you at all, though, that maybe Jeff just isn't the guy and instead we have to rely on machinery?
Well, listen, if the robots are going to take my job, they're going to fill my kid's head with all kinds of nonsense and rig my elections, then the least it could do is deliver me a, prodigy basketball player to my favorite team. It's like the least it could do.
Thank you, robots. We appreciate you. Thank you. Just remember this. Remember us thanking you when you take over the world, okay? We appreciate you for Kon Knueppel. Just remember that when you think about who needs to be dominated first.
All right, so here's the skinny on this. So this information comes from essentially like an advertisement document, a white paper for a company called Invisible Technologies. And within it is a customer success story that includes the work that they did with the Charlotte Hornets on their most recent draft. And the best that I can surmise here So, in the NBA, if you're scouting an NBA game, they have something called Hawkeye. They have cameras all over the arena that they can use for tracking players. And so that's all the tracking data that you get in the NBA in terms of how fast players are moving, the distance they're running. It all comes, they don't put anything on the players. It's all from these, I don't know how many, but a lot of cameras that go all the way around the arena. And so they can get a full 3D picture of what's going on. Okay. In college and all these smaller arenas and internationally, they don't have that stuff. You get the one feed that is the sideline view, and that's all you have. And what apparently is happening here is they were able to take that footage and then glean some of that same data that they get with the Hawkeye setup, and then using artificial intelligence, able to get that data to the Charlotte Hornets so that they could maybe look at a Kon Knueppel in a different way, look at a Sion James, and try to find these wrinkles to make better draft decisions. And honestly, everything that we've seen out of this draft class, something worked, right, Walker? These guys have been incredible. Kon is playing out of his mind. Sion James has been a big contributor. Ryan Kalkbrenner in that game against Washington before he went out with an ankle injury. Luckily, he came back. It was available to play at the end of the game, but he was making a big impact in terms of his ability to defend the rim. And so, I think it's great that the Hornets are forward-thinking, and that the guy that is quoted in the customer success story is Patrick Harrell, who is their VP of data and insights, who they got. He's an Ivy Leaguer, and so they only brought him in a year ago. So that's he is Jeff Peterson. They're still finding smart people. They're still changing things. They are still adjusting. They're on the front foot. I feel like, particularly in the Mitch Kupchak era, they were on the back foot of all of this stuff. If I go all the way back to Rich Cho founded a data and analytics department for the then Charlotte Bobcats. He came in and just said, hey, I can't believe we're not using advanced stats to make our determinations. So they built databases and they did that, right? I think maybe there was an either not a progression with new technology or maybe even a step back. And that, I'm speculating a little bit here, but we can see that the draft decisions didn't necessarily get better. Now we have at least some evidence that the organization is being more forward-thinking about using technology to get a leg up on other teams.
So you mentioned Patrick Harrell, by the way. We mentioned him when he was hired by the Hornets. If you look up his photo in the Forbes 30 Under 30 2024 Sports Edition, the photo looks like he's about 18 years old. Okay. Shout out to Patrick. I don't know if he consumes this podcast in some way, shape, or form, but you talk about the youngest decision-making group in the league. It's got to be with Charlotte, with the way, Rick Schnall maybe doesn't look like he's 29 years old, but he's Rick Schwoll with the way that he's cut up going into All-Star break. Those pictures were insane. But then Jeff Peterson, crazy young. Patrick Harrell, who has some pull, crazy young. Lee. You look at they decided, you know what? We don't need a reset. We need a refresh. We need fresh. We need lots of fresh opinions on how to help this organization. And sure enough, here you go with the way that they've been successful in the last, I guess, year and a half, really year out there on the court. So AI assisted drafting. We could be, I think, enthused by analytics, putting more resources into that department. It made sense that they were going to do this from the get-go, but it also made sense if you just have any kind of basic level of analytics and you look at Kon Knueppel, his advanced metrics were through the roof. Not hard to tell, right? Great three-point shooter, really efficient. Duh, you take that guy because the advanced metrics love him. Ryan Kalkbrenner, same thing there. Rim protection, defensive player of the year, 4 straight years. Sion James even being, I believe, was he a 40% shooter in college? I know it was close if he wasn't. But it makes sense to me, even from just a base level understanding. And I'm sure that there are plenty of smarter people out there that might think, oh, he doesn't even have a basic level understanding, right? But at least the way that I perceive and interpret analytics, it makes sense that all of these draft picks would lend itself to being that type of draft selection. And they've worked out right away. 3 of the 4 are important parts of a basketball team that is playing a lot better now that they're healthy.
And the way that the Hornets are framing this, I'll read you a quote from this success story from Patrick Harrell, the VP of Basketball Insights and Analysis. That's his official title. He said, Invisible's computer vision models provided high-quality data that played a key role in validating our 2025 draft analysis. Because, look, I would be uncomfortable with the idea of my basketball team that I love and invest my own money in. I would be uncomfortable with the idea of them completely handing over the entire scouting operation to Silicon Valley. You want a mixture of both. You want it to be a tool in your tool belt, but you want traditional scouting. You want all these things to work in tandem. And so I think that's what you're seeing here. And I'll also say this, like, I believe that the Hornets liked Kon Knueppel. They liked what they saw on film. They liked what they saw in the analytics. They liked what they saw in the computer vision. But I also think that if VJ Edgecombe had been available, they would have taken VJ Edgecombe.
No,
this helped.
Maybe
This helped validate the choice that they had in front of them. I don't know that it would have meant that Kon Knueppel was taken third overall had the Hornets had that pick.
One thing I feel very good about is they would have taken Reed Shepherd or Stephon Castle had they been available in 2 years ago's selection process. With VJ, I don't know, man. I don't think you're wrong. I think maybe it would have happened. I just don't know that you're right. Right. That one, they really did love Kon. I will say, like, just look, I don't report. I'm not a reporter. I don't feel like I've heard anything about VJ Edgecombe being the guy if he was available. Maybe we got some reports early on about that. I do know they had always loved Kon, and that was going to be the pick had VJ been on. But that's a really interesting question. I don't know what would have happened there. I don't know what would have happened.
But that's always easy to say after the fact, right? It's always easy to say, like, oh, yeah, Kon was off. Because, like, of course, like, what else are you going to say? You're not going to say, well, we wanted this guy and he wasn't available.
Fair enough. The reports were out there. Remember, because they tried to walk it back, and it felt like there was a lot of agent handling here where they sent out their puppets to say, hey, not so fast on Kon. And it felt like the type of report of agents and decision makers putting that out there to say, to get people off of the scent. But no, it's a good question. I have no clue. Like, they really could have selected VJ had he been the one. It's entirely possible.
Doesn't matter now, and certainly,
it does not.
Hornets fans are thrilled with what they're seeing out of Kon Knueppel, and so it is all worked out to the benefit of the Charlotte Hornets, who are looking at a possible Rookie of the Year campaign here. And I definitely want to talk about more about the crazy stats that Kon is putting up. Not just but I just don't even want to talk about the shooting. Like, there's so many fun things that he did in that Wizards game that I can't wait to talk about. But it's good that the Hornets are finally, this version of the Hornets are finally saying, hey, we're going to throw everything at this thing. You know why? Because working with this organization was probably an investment of funds. It took money to work with this group. And so it's investing in, hey, we're going to do things, not that save us money, but that bring us winning players. It might, and look, if you scout well, if you draft well, it actually also helps you save money because you can fill up the back end of your roster with players that you're not going out. If you go out in free agency and find these players, or you go out in trades and find these players, suddenly your books look a lot tighter than if you can find these both in the first round and in the top end of the second round, if you can find players that can immediately contribute, and that's what the Hornets did here. So, but it's not just about saving money; it's about finding good talent to actually win basketball games. So, man, yeah, I'm thrilled by this info.
Last thing, you mentioned Hawkeye. One, it makes me think of tennis. Just that technology, how now they adopted, I think, even for the majors. So shout out to Hawkeye. But two, I did hear that they were using this offseason, and maybe this speaks to my ignorance. I kind of thought that most NBA teams were utilizing this technology, and maybe I was wrong on that, but I knew the Hornets were using this, and I didn't know if any other NBA team, I kind of thought, oh, yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, man, they're really here. It's a sign of the times. This is just the modern day NBA. But it does feel good that every single time we discuss something like this, the Hornets are actually maybe even at the forefront, and or they are towards the head of the pack rather than the bottom with some of the decision making that we've seen from them. So really cool stuff there. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
What did we learn in this 4-game stretch without Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate? We'll answer coming up next, last segment. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Appreciate them as always. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Maybe the Hornets make it there. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This episode is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Four-game stretch. They go 2-2 after the suspensions to both Moussa Diabate and Miles Bridges. Not April 9th, goodness gracious. It was February 9th. April. What month am I in? February 9th, they played the Pistons, and they had the brawl, baby. And Moussa didn't like getting mushed. Miles didn't like Moussa getting mushed. And because they fought with Jalen Duren and Beef Stew, they got a 4-game suspension. They missed that Atlanta Hawks game. Hornets won at home against Atlanta in what was a monstrous win that gives them the tiebreaker over a team in which they're competing with for play-in seeding / playoff seeding. Okay, you get the tiebreaker. All-star break, long time, got to wait it out for a little bit. You come back, you have a terrible shooting night against the Rockets between Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. They go 2 of 18 combined in that game against Houston, so rough night for him from the three-point line. And KD just goes all NBA. He wins the second game. Cleveland, James Harden, and the boys undefeated after the trade from the Clippers sending Darius Garland over to LA. So you lose both of those games by single digits. Now it's 1-2. You got the big win on the road last night. I'll tell you this. It felt like a goal of ours going into that 4-game stretch to go 2-2. I think we would understand a loss at home to the Rockets, specifically because of the matchup, because they're such a good rebounding team, even without Steven Adams, and that's taken a little bit of the secret sauce away from them, but they're still big. They still have Alperen Şengün, who is a monster down low. They still have KD. They're still physical. It felt like a bad matchup. Not having Moussa and Miles against that team, that felt like a detriment. Same thing with Cleveland. Even if they didn't have Evan Mobley, Cleveland also felt like a bad matchup. And you drop both of them by single digits. I'll throw it to you, Doug. I'm cool. I feel great. Like, not even okay. I'm totally fine. I am actually pretty happy with where the Hornets are in this 4-game sample size with going 2-2, beating the Hawks and beating the Wizards.
Yeah, I think it's easy to look at it objective. Well, it's not easy. It's never easy to look at things objectively. But when we looked at that 4-game stretch, we said, yes, 2-2, you're okay. You may anything worse than that, and you're probably derailing any chance of climbing into the 6th seed. But if you go 2-2, it's still going to be difficult. I think I do think that a lot of fans still looked at it and said, man, damn it, like what a missed opportunity. Like what if we had Moussa? What if we had Miles? You'd already beaten the Rockets. You'd beaten the Cavs once. this season. As you said, no Evan Mobley. Those were still opportunities to steal games and get closer and keep that momentum going. So I think, you can keep two things in your head at once, that 2-2 feels like a good outcome, and yet you still wanted the great outcome of being able to keep that incredible momentum of that streak, even though you lost the Pistons, but just keep that whole momentum going. But you did get an opportunity to learn some things in the process of not having those players. And I think I learned that just via them beating up on the Wizards and being competitive with those two really good teams, that LaMelo Ball, Kon Knueppel, Brandon Miller can carry a team through an injury for at least one game of a playoff series. Like if Miles were to get hurt or Moose were to get hurt, or even I think if Brandon were to get hurt and you had Miles and Moose, like I feel like this team is less vulnerable to one or two injuries than they have been in many, many years. And I mean, what was the stat from this Wizards game? And I know they wouldn't play the Wizards in the playoffs, but the three of those guys combined for 87 points on 20 made threes. Just their ability to create offense for themselves and others and create advantages on the ball, I think make them so dangerous, particularly in the half court. They don't always have to run. And I think that's where I look at it and go, man, Miles is very important as a release valve on the offense. Moussa is very important as an offensive rebounder and a defensive hustler. But they are not like the core vital thing that if you pluck them out, the Hornets suddenly become a disaster of a team. Because in years past, that's what would have happened. And I think going back to our last segment, drafting Sion, hitting on Sion, Kalkbrenner, and Kon in the way that they did are the reason why they're 2-2 and were competitive in those two games. Because without that draft class, this would have been an 0-4 stretch, I think. And so kudos to Jeff Peterson for doing that and for the whole team for stepping up, particularly LaMelo Ball.
Can I tell you how I was really impressed with Ryan Kalkbrenner? I thought he played his bleep off in these last 4 games, especially how many times have you seen a 7-footer, a 7-1er, if you will, get to the floor as many times as he did for loose basketballs? Mm-hmm. It's not because centers are lazy that they don't dive. It's because it's a long way down. It's almost not beneficial because it is such a long way down for you to dive for a loose basketball because somebody else can bend over and pick up the ball in the time that it takes you to get to the floor. And yet somehow, some way, I thought in that Houston game, he was on the floor like 3-4 times. Against Cleveland, it happened a couple times. Got hurt in this game against Washington. He was reportedly okay to come back in. They just didn't bring him in because the game was already decided, for those that were wondering. 3 blocks in 18 minutes. Impressive stuff.
Crazy.
But I thought Kalkbrenner, man, like people were kind of souring on him just a little bit. The minutes when Moussa would go to the bench and then you throw him in there, it just clearly not as spry, didn't feel as great. And I thought he did a lot to win me over and win others over in this last 4-game sample against tough competition, man, against really tough competition. I really like, and PJ Hall against Atlanta I thought was exceptional too. I thought he was great against the Hawks.
Something encouraging and is that Moussa in a lot of ways has felt like the heart of this team, and he plays with an immense amount of heart. But when I think of a heart, you can't live without a heart. You know what I'm saying? They could live without Moussa. Now, could they do that for an entire season? Absolutely not. He has been vital to what they're doing. But they can survive, and because I'm looking forward to a playoff series when they might lose a guy for a game. And can they deal with that? I don't think you can deal with that if it's LaMelo Ball, if it's Kon Knueppel. Brandon Miller, I don't know. I'm not as sure. I think the answer is yes, they could not survive without Brandon Miller. I feel like those 3 are the core. Those make up the vital organs of the Charlotte Hornets. But they were able to survive this and stay competitive and not get in their own head. It's easy to lose those 2 guys and think, down 2 starters, I guess we're done. And they didn't get like that. And that speaks to the coaching and the character, not only the draft class in terms of their skill set, that's important, but the character of guys that they continue to find and bring into the system. The Grant Williams, Josh Green, who has been playing amazing basketball.
He's been
just
awesome.
All these guys. Like, look, artificial intelligence can do a lot of stuff. We just talked about how impactful it has been on the draft. But you know what AI can't figure out? Heart, soul.
Right.
What's up here? What's upstairs? AI can't measure that. Not yet. But so that's what Charles Lee's for. That's what Jeff Peterson's for. Looking somebody in the eye and saying, hey, do you have what it takes? Do you have the want to? They brought so many guys in here that have the want to that'll hit the floor. What did Kon Knueppel say, the Larry Bird quote? It like disgusts him when people don't hit the floor and go after a loose ball. That's what it takes to survive when you're down 2 starters. That's what the Hornets showed, and it should give you even more encouragement about their chances in a playoff series now and in the future.
That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free and available anywhere you get your pods, including YouTube. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He's still writing, folks. It's not AI. He's the one still writing. Plus, go to Yahoo Sports Daily.
Actually, it is. It's Allen Iverson. He occasionally steps in.
It's AI. It's Trey I. He's writing for Doug as well. All sorts of AIs. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, Yahoo Sports Daily. Jason Fitz, Caroline Fenton, real people. Yahoo Sports Daily. Go check it out. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.